So in the first 6 verses, we had seen about the banyan tree, the upside banyan tree. And this week, Krishna will speak about how the soul is bounded in this material world. Basically, how is it stuck in that tree, and how is the journey of the soul within that reflected reality of material existence. The 5 verses in this section, 7 to 11. In 7, Krishna will explain what is the identity of the soul, and then how does it actually, if it is spiritual, how does it actually carry impressions from body to body? Body is matter and soul is eternal. How is it carrying materialistic impressions from body to body? What facilitates that journey? And the whole process of transmigration is explained in very nice purports in this section. So in the 7th verse, Krishna speaks about how the soul is divine in essence, but actually struggles when it forgets its connection with Krishna. And also, the soul desires are like that continuing luggage from life to life, born baggage from life to life. And as how the soul goes from one body to another, it gets a new set of senses. Because if it's in a human body, it has a certain set of senses. In another kind of body, it has another set of senses. Even if it takes another human body, it comes with a new set of senses. But the same cravings reload. It's just like uninstalling and installing an app kind of a thing. So you go to a different device and start WhatsApp, it loads all your previous conversations. So the history is there with the soul being carried around by the mind. And in the 10th verse, Krishna says how it is one need to have this knowledge in order to actually understand how it is working. And then he speaks about how self-realization is to see, is to train to see better. So why is Krishna explaining these verses? That between verses 1 and 6, Krishna gave the big picture, the illusory tree of material existence, how it is a perfect reflection of the spiritual reality. He spoke about the big picture of just explaining what is this universe, what is this material creation is all about. And now he is giving a personal picture. He is explaining how the soul is caught in this illusion and transmigrating. How is it stuck to this illusory tree? And then from 12 to 15 onwards, he will explain the divine picture, like who's Krishna, how does he actually support us and sustain us in this journey, and how can we actually get out of this particular bondage. So that's what he will explain later. So for now, this whole section is specifically explaining how the soul is caught in that illusion and transmigrates from body to another body. So it was explained the way out of this illusory banyan tree is detachment and surrender to Krishna. And after stating that, Krishna is zooming in to explain the soul's entanglement within the illusory tree, because it's not just an abstract philosophy alone. The illusory banyan tree that was being explained, it's where the jiva lives, struggles, and transmigrates. So it's better to understand that journey so we can take this knowledge seriously. And if you have a book to refer to, please do. I'll do so too. Is there any question or anything that anyone wants to ask before we go forward? Okay.
Yeah, can I ask something real quick?
Yes, bro.
So if the whole world is inverted reflection, then how do we, the soul having to struggle through at the same time, how do we know which is inverted and which is actually the right way up? Because obviously there are some things that are correct in this world, right? The temples, the whatever we do bhakti, those are obviously the right way up. So then how does a soul being stuck in this transmigration identify?
Identify with what, Prabhuji?
With what? No, not. I identify is the wrong word. So how does it distinguish? How do we distinguish between what is the right way up and what is the wrong way?
Is basically you're saying how do if is my journey upwards that towards the spiritual reality, or is it just stuck in the material reality? How do I differentiate?
How to catch ourselves if we are going on the spiral up or the spiral down?
Means the nature of material consciousness is very evident in our lives. The Bhagavatam says, Yasyam vai shruyamanayam krishne parama purushe bhaktirutpadate pumsam shoka moha bhaya apaha. So shoka, moha and bhaya are the symptoms of. Am I audible? Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay. So that shoka, moha, and bhaya are symptoms of materialistic consciousness. So if we want to know, are we proceeding ahead or like are we getting stuck, is to see what is the condition of the heart. Is there any lamentation of the past? Wish I had that and wish I had this in this way. Or shoka moha means the illusion of having control currently, that I'll control this way, I'll control this thing, and that attitude of being in control of things, that is a moha. And bhaya is fear about the future. The uncertainty freaks out people. So a person who establishes oneself in spiritual consciousness, it's not that their life is all perfect externally, in the sense they make peace with the past, and they are grateful for the present, and they are hopeful for the future. So it cannot be just it's not a matter of motivation, it's not a matter of just knowing things. To live that is a sign of spiritual consciousness. So then we can see, to the extent we have made peace with the past and we are grateful for the present and we are hopeful for the future, that Krishna is there and he will protect and guide me, and also be freed from the lamentation of the past and the illusory control of the present and the fear about the future. When we more and more develop, see these symptoms, then we can see what is our consciousness and what we need to work on. Does it make sense?
Answer, Prabhu. Thank you so much. I did not hear that before. The make peace with the past, hopeful, no, grateful for the present, and hopeful for the future. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. With these verses 15.7 that we are starting, Mamaivamsho jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatanah manashashtani indriyani prakristani karshati. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So, Mamaivaamsho means this verse is very highly quoted and also a very hallmark verse for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because it brings out the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism in a very nice way. A very important verse used by many acharyas as a pramana, as an evidence for the nature of the soul and its existence in this world, and what is it doing here, and all of that. So in one small verse, it's such a potent reading. Mama eva amsho. The Prabhupada translates mama as my, eva as certainly, amshaha fragmental part. Mama eva amshaha. It's the soul is only my fragmental part, not anything else. Mama eva amshaha jiva loke, all the conditioned souls in this world. Jiva bhutaha, the conditioned living entity is jiva. Sometimes this question comes, what is the difference between atma and jiva? Have you ever come across that? A lot of people ask these days, what is atma and what is jiva? So atma is the original state. The pure soul is atma. When it is in the conditioned existence, when it is covered by the conditioned mind, intelligence, and false ego, when it is under the influence of the material nature, the Atma is called as Jiva. So that's why here Prabhupada, if you see the translation that he does, he gives for the word is Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That Jiva Bhuta is conditioned living entity. And Sanatana is eternal. So this fragmented part of me, the soul, which is currently conditioned, is eternal. Sanatana. Manaha Sashtani Indriyani. What is it doing currently in its conditioned state? Manashashtani Indriyani. Mana is mind, Shashtani is six, Indriyani is senses. Prakriti in material nature, Sthani, it is situated in the material nature. And what is it doing? It's struggling hard with the mind and the six senses. So that is the current journey of the soul in the material existence. It basically is struggling with the mind and the six senses. That's all is the struggle for material life. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. But in this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally. It's not that he assumes individuality in his conditioned life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. Because this verse is also proof that how the soul can never be God. Soul is eternally fragmented part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. There is no way the soul suddenly at the time of liberation becomes God. That is fully refuted in this verse. And so our eternal individuality never disappears. So forgetting Krishna, the soul might misuse its independence and struggle in the prison of the mind and the senses. However, it can never actually just become one with God, or in the sense become God eventually. That understanding is defeated in this verse, and that's what Prabhupada first addresses. Souls are Sanatana. They're eternally individual and they are also eternally subservient to the Supreme. They are eternal servants of the Supreme. Of course, independence is there. So so according to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself. Like I'm not going to read the whole purport. Prabhupada says how the Supreme Lord expands, has multiple kinds of expansions. He has his own expansions like Lord Ram, Narsimha, and many other Vishnu Murtis. He also has other expansions, which are secondary expansions called as living entities. His primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattvas, and his secondary expansions are called as Jiva Tattva. So, how the Supreme Lord is eternal, similarly, the living entity is also eternal. Prabhupada is saying, as fragmented parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities. We also have a little bit of his qualities, Sachitananda. And we also have a minute form of independence. One of his qualities is that he is independent, Swarat. He is completely independent. But the living entity is minutely independent. So, and then Prabhupada writes this wonderful statement: by misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul. And by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. So it's basically one's free will. How we exercise our choice determines whether we will remain a conditioned soul or will become a liberated soul. And Prabhupada says, in his liberated state, he is freed from this material condition and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes and forgets the loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in this material world. So Prabhupada then speaks about what is the struggle for existence is considered as life in this world. And yeah, Prabhupada continues and emphasizes the word Mamaya Vamsha also as very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is like not like some material broken part. It's not like matter which can be cut into pieces and joined together again, because there was this famous sannyasi Mayavadi follower, and he had a huge follower. He was giving a huge lecture, means he was giving a lecture to a huge crowd, and in that he took a A4 sheet, the letter size plain paper. He kept tearing into as small pieces he could be, And yeah, everybody was waiting. Okay, what is he doing? Like, why is he tearing the papers? And then he just took all the papers and just threw it. And he said, so where is the paper now? So the idea is the Supreme has turned into all these jivas, and the Supreme does not exist anymore. So his logic was, I take a paper, I tear it into pieces, and then he threw it in the air. So now the idea is like the original paper does not exist. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. That is foolish, because it cannot be cut. The soul itself cannot be cut. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said in the second chapter, it is clearly said the soul cannot be cut. And Prabhupada says, how can the Supreme be cut? So it's not like it's not like matter. It's not like a white paper. White paper and Supreme has uh, has nothing in common in terms of their qualities. So that conception of that it could be cut into pieces and joined together again, that conception is not applicable here, because the word Sanskrit word Sanatana is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. The soul is also eternal, not just the Supreme Lord. And in this way, Prabhupada concludes it. So we'll see the rest from the presentation. The souls are Sanatana, eternally individual and eternal servants. And independence is minute. If we properly use the independence, then we become liberated. If we misuse, we become that leads to bondage. In conditioned life, the mind and ego drive the struggle for existence. And Prabhupada's one clear statement is the soul is eternally fragmented. So we are a spark of the divine. We are not a random accident, as the biological science proves, as Darwin's theory, as the theory of evolution, or as the Big Bang, which proves the creation of the world, or the chemical theories which speak about the origin of species, origin of life itself. The biological theory speaks about origin of species. The physical theories speak about origin of the universe, and the chemical theories speak about the origin of life. So between all of these things, they just think it's all random. It's all by chance. That it's by chance that this world came into existence, and the situations were so apt for life to exist here. And it is by chance that life became possible by the evolution of matter. And by chance, the life then started having different species. So origin of the universe, origin of life, origin of species, all by chance. That is the modern scientific conclusion. However, what Krishna is saying is, no, you're not by chance, you're not a random accident, but a spark of the Supreme. Forgetting this, we struggle with our mind and senses, because we have been, whether these scientists say or not, we have been conditioned to think that we are independent of the Supreme. So we have forgotten that connection, and that's where the struggle begins. So we are not a random accident or a meaningless creation, which has absolutely no purpose. Otherwise, why is this innate tendency to look for purpose and meaning in life exists? So you're a spark of the divine, but forgetfulness turns freedom into struggle. So that misuse of that independence is the problem. So the next verse in this, the soul is being described. Now that the soul's spiritual, the original condition is being explained, that the soul is mameva amsho jiva loka. It is eternally a part and parcel of the Supreme. Now, what does the soul do in the world is being explained. That the soul actually carries impressions and desires to the next body. How does that do it? How does that, how is it able to do that? That we will see in the 8th verse. Shariram yadavapnoti yachapi ukramatishvaraha grihitvaitani samyati vayurgandhani vashayat. The living entity, the material world, carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. And Prabhupada says, here the living entity is described as Ishvara. In the previous verse, if you see, he is described as Jiva, Mamevamsho Jiva Loke. But in this verse, he is being described as Ishvara, Ukramatishvara, because he is in that mood of a controller of his own body and senses. He thinks I own these things. He has the Ishvara tendency. That is why he is struggling that's why the soul is struggling in the body. Shariram yadavapnoti yachapi ukramati Ishvara. The living entity is described as Ishvara. If he likes, one can change one's body to a higher grade or to a lower grade. So minute independence is there. The change of body undergoes, that the change the body undergoes depends on the soul's desires. And he says, at the time of death, the consciousness one has created will carry one on to the next type of body. If one has made his consciousness like that of a cat or a dog, one is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. If one has fixed one's consciousness on God's godly qualities, one will change into the form of a demigod. So in this way, Prabhupada speaks about the destination, that the soul is Ishvara, controller of its body, but misuses its freedom. So cat-like consciousness leads to cat body, godly consciousness leads to higher forms, and Krishna consciousness leads to eternal liberation. So karma and subtle impressions pack the suitcase for the next life. So how are we actually carrying? What are we carrying next? So we are carrying the conceptions that we have in the subtle body. So one gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. So that impressions is all carried through the subtle body. Prabhupada says this process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in this body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and this is our mental backpack. So when we all travel, we have a backpack. We put all the necessary things. So similarly, in this life, we have a backpack. So just like the air carries scent, so we carry habits and desires from one life to another, and that will be explained in the coming verses. So what we pack determines our journey, our experience in the next stop, whatever is our next destination. The quality of life depends on what we have packed, and that will determine whether we'll have what we need or whether we'll struggle, whatever. So that is so we can just think, oh, I can just think and do whatever I want, because it's more like a backpack. It's going to come with us life after life. So when you pack, what you pack in your mental backpack follows you everywhere. It does not leave you. You can miss this backpack. You cannot misplace this backpack. No one can steal this backpack. So it has a complete security. So what we carry in our hearts today shapes the body we wear tomorrow, in the sense, in the future. And Prabhupada writes that how the individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. So whatever we do currently is the background that we are creating for the next body. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
one question, Prabhuji.
Mhm.
That Utkramati Ishwaraha, is that not meaning like the Paramatma in the body leaves, when the Paramatma in the body leaves, okay, with the soul, then that is where, I mean, the soul will get, like, I mean, to next body. Is that not the meaning?
Can you explain what about the Paramatma?
Like, I mean, Utkramati Ishwaraha, when he says, right, leaves the Ishwara, means the Paramatma in the body. The Paramatma, we have Paramatma and the soul, both in the body, right? When the
Mm-hmm.
Paramatma leaves, okay, with the soul, then
Mm-hmm.
that is when, like, I mean, the soul will carry all these, like, I mean, things like into next body.
Yeah, we could say that, because the Paramatma also reminds.
Okay.
Yeah, we could say that. And yeah, shariranam edavapnoti achapi ukramatishvara. So different readings can be there. The, what do you call, the liberty in trying to give a different words could be taken differently. as long as it is not contradicting the conclusion, yeah, we have the freedom to interpret in slightly different ways. But here Prabhupada clearly says that the Ishvara refers to the controller of the body. But that controller could also be Paramatma in a different reading. But here Prabhupada takes it in his reading, he takes it as the living entity. Because that is what is being carried from one body to another.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So in text 9, it is Shrotram Chakshuhu Sparshanam Cha Rasanam Grahanam Evacha Adishtaya Manaschayam Vishayan Upasevate. So translation, the living entity thus taking another gross body obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So the living entity gets a new body. It gets a new set of senses. But what is being denoted by in the purport is that, but the same search and the struggle continues. So each body brings a new set of senses. The soul seeks enjoyment through the mind and senses. It's the same senses, and it's a different set of senses, but the same search continues. And consciousness is originally pure, but when colored by the material modes, it adapts to a new body with matching senses and desires. So it could be a human body, it could be a lower body, it could be a higher body. But accordingly, the soul adjusts and continues its search for enjoyment through that particular set of senses and body. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that how consciousness is like pure water, but it is tinted by the material modes. Yes, Purva?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Well, about this purport, if consciousness is pure and whatever I am today, it's because of the impressions on that consciousness, isn't it? My question is like, let's say, if my father is a completely atheist, whereas my mother is not, it's because of their past consciousness, the impressions on their past consciousness that it is reflecting in this birth, isn't it? So even if my mother, for example, if her consciousness has improved a little bit, because of which she is not an atheist, then what will happen, like after death, what happens of the impressions of the conscious on the consciousness from previous births? How, what, like,
That's
yeah.
what the verse is going to speak about now in the next verse, actually.
Oh,
The next verse speaks about that literally. So I'll take it there along with that.
thank you.
Yeah. So in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, in other words, if the living entity adulterates one's consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in the next life, one becomes a cat or dog and gets a cat or dog body and enjoys accordingly. So Prabhupada writes this beautiful statement that consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure. But consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. And real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada says, when therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 84 million species. 8,400,000 species. So here in this verse again we see that Prabhupada is continuing, Krishna is continuing the same theme, that we get the new senses, but the same search continues based on our consciousness. We develop the next body. It's like we get a new phone, but the same data and the same apps, we can just move from one phone to another phone. So if you have already installed WhatsApp on a particular number and then you uninstall, you go to another device and just enter the number and then upload the app. The app shows all the history. It does not change because the unique identifier is the phone number. Similarly, here the unique identifier is the soul. Whatever the soul has acquired with its mind, intelligence, and ego in its subtle body, that gets reloaded again. It is its property. It is its history. So switching bodies gives new senses, maybe. It's like it gets you a new set of senses, but the same cravings and reload unless we change the consciousness itself. Otherwise, it's just the same cravings that reload. So death is not a solution. Many times we may think, oh, I wish I just got I got another different life. So next life in itself will not solve any problems. Just transmigrating to another body alone will not actually solve the problem. Unless we change the consciousness, it's going to be the same, whether in this body or in another body. We will see the same situations and everything replay in loop, unless we learn the lessons and transform. Sundaranand Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
I'm about to ask a very silly question. You should probably know this, but does the mind, intelligence, and ego, those three elements that we have seen in previous chapters, are they also transmigrating along with the soul? The reason why I'm asking is because someone explained about some past life memories. I'm just wondering where that carries through.
Yeah, through the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, that continues to go with the
That
soul.
it just stays until the soul is finally.
Yes, yes. The liberation means that the soul gets rid of all those layers.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So in the 10th verse is the speaking about that hidden journey that Purva was also asking, like, how does that happen? What is being carried forward? And as Sundaranand Prabhu also now asked. So verse 10, Utkrama Pantam Stitam Vapi Bunjanam Va Gunanvitam Vimudana Anupashyanti Pashyanti Gyana Chakshusha. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all of this. Prabhupada writes a powerful perfect. He says, without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves one's present body, nor what form of body one is going to take in the next life, nor even why one is living in a particular type of body. This requires great amount of knowledge understood from the Bhagavad Gita and other literatures, heard from a bona fide spiritual master. And then Prabhupada writes this, one who's trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. So basically every living entity is quitting one's body under different circumstances, living in a body under different circumstances, and enjoying under different circumstances, all under the spell of the material nature. So as a result of that, one suffers happiness or distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. And Prabhupada continues to write, a person in knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in this material existence. Those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general, for their conditioned life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. Prabhupada is like literally giving the conclusion of all the philosophy in this few lines. He says, that's why we are trying to give this knowledge, take it, practice it, liberate yourself and transfer to the spiritual world. He has no patience to go through what Krishna is saying verse by verse. In each verse, he's giving the conclusion because he's just concerned. So in this 10th verse, the ignorant cannot see how the soul leaves or enters the body. And it is said that the wise is one who's trained in knowledge and can perceive it. So the transitions of the soul, like birth, death, karma, are invisible without knowledge. Only trained spiritual eyes see the truth. Otherwise, the soul will live as an ignorant one, fooled by lust and desire, blind to the soul's journey. And that's why it is important to develop this Jnana Chakshusha. And the Prabhupada says the foolish cannot understand, but one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. And these are invisible transitions. How the karma gets transmigrated and moved from one body to another, how the soul moves from one body to another. These are invisible things. So unless we hear from a higher authority, especially Krishna and bona fide spiritual masters, it is very difficult to understand how this is happening. So birth and death are like, again, software updates. It needs a trained vision in order to see that and take the necessary precautions. So this we already read from the purport that without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves one's present body and what kind of body it's going to take next. It's very difficult to know. And the last verse of this section, that how seeing with the right lens will help us know what is happening. Yatanto yoginas chainam pashyantatmanavasthitam yatanto api akritatmano nainam pashyanta chetasaham. Translation: the enduring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. So it's not just a matter of theoretical knowledge. One can just start seeing things, but also practicing. The enduring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization. Yatanto yoginashchinam, one who's actively practicing it. Who's an enduring transcendentalist? One who practices sadhana. One who's trying to situate oneself in the spiritual consciousness. By practicing sadhana, they can understand and see these things in action. And Prabhupada speaks about like how there are so many people who call themselves as yogis, but they're basically stuck with the asana part and they have no information about self-realization. And he says, only those engaged in pure devotional service can understand how things are taking place. So true yogi means to develop the vision and share the vision. Prabhupada speaks that how self-realized transcendentalists see the soul's reality, how it's moving. Without realization, one cannot actually see those things. So not all paths reveal the truth properly. So Prabhupada emphasizes strongly Bhakti Yoga in this purport, that only Bhakti Yoga opens the eyes to see the soul's transmigration and destiny. Basically, to see how our desires are pulling us down and binding us to this material world. So this awareness, this ability to see is everything. The wise sees the soul's journey, the unwise only see the surface. They're just seeing the change of the body and lamenting just for that. It's not that the wise does not have any emotions, but they also understand that this is not the end of it. It's not about me, it's about that person, their journey. So what lens are we looking through? So without the right lens, life looks random. Then people get very affected. Recently, I was in Mercy University upstate, and one of the students asked, "Oh, I've been a devout Christian. My grandparents inspired me, and they passed away in a car accident. So it's very heartbreaking," which is true. And now I feel like, why did God do this? So I don't think I'm any more interested in believing that God exists. Otherwise, why would my grandparents live in that kind of a gruesome way? So life looks like very random. We may believe, but that belief, if it is not founded in reason and philosophy, if it was just sentimental and transactional, so then life looks random. With wisdom, it makes perfect sense. So it is very important that why is this knowledge very important? Because with that, life actually makes sense. Otherwise, it looks completely random. So without the inner vision, without the spiritual vision, life looks like a chance. Okay, things happen by chance. But with wisdom, it reveals the soul journey and how Krishna is caring for us and protecting us and providing for us. So only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord. So realization means it includes all the three, not just realizing the self, or not just understanding the world, or not just knowing that the Supreme exists. One has to realize all the three: the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord. What is the interconnection? Who are they? What is the nature? And in other words, the Bhakti Yogis, those engaged in pure devotion, service, and Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place. So only when we realize all those three subject matters, we'll be able to understand what is taking place. Mother Indra?
Oh, this is for the very end of the class, so finish and then I'll...
Okay. Yeah, I'm summarizing that how in these 5 verses, Krishna explained that soul is an eternal fragment of Krishna, it's not this body. The soul it's not the body. Soul is separate and it is an eternal fragment of Krishna. And he also spoke about how habits and desires carry us from body to body like the luggage, that the mind carries these impressions, and based on that impressions, we get a new body. And awareness or understanding reveals the journey of the soul. Otherwise, if one is covered by the material ignorance, they don't care when Yamaraj asked Yudhishthira Maharaj, what is the most astonishing thing in this world? What's the most surprising thing in this world? He explained, Ahani Ahani Bhutani Gachanti Hayamalayam Seshastavaram Ichanti Kimascharya Mataparam. He says, what is the most wonderful thing, Ascharya, what is the most fascinating thing in this world? That every day thousands and thousands of people are dying and going to the abode of Yamaraj. But the rest of the people who stay back assume that that will never happen to them. They live as if death will never come to them. He says that is so astonishing that before their eyes there are thousands and thousands of people dying every day, but they don't understand that it will come to them, and they don't worry about those things at all. And once Prabhupada was asked, Swamiji, you're speaking all these philosophy, but what are you doing about the problems of the world? And Prabhupada said the real problems of the world is birth, death, old age, and disease. And I'm addressing those problems. Why are you not taking those things very seriously? So, yeah, we don't think they're also important problems. And ignorance will hide the truth in plain sight from us. And the lessons we can see in this section is the soul is an eternal fragment of Krishna, not the body. Habits and desires carry us from body to body like a luggage. And awareness reveals the journey and ignorance hides it. And habits are the invisible architecture of daily life. So our daily life, how it is, the architecture is basically what are our habits. So what habits or desires am I carrying that shape my future? Maybe in a negative way. So we are what we repeatedly do, and we need to see what are we doing repeatedly that could affect us potentially, that could affect our journey in spiritual life. So with some of these thoughts, so what you pack in your mental backpack follows you everywhere. There's no way that we could actually get out of it. So I will pause here for this week, and next week we'll continue from verses 12 onwards. So thank you very much. Very grateful for your presence. Yes, Madhurendra, you wanted to ask something?
Going back to the very beginning of the class, you mentioned to the extent that we make peace with the past. And can you continue that? Because I didn't.
Make peace with the past and grateful for the present and hopeful for the future.
Okay.
It does.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just randomly said it became almost like a quote. Even I feel like, oh, it sounds it sounds good.
It does
Yeah.
sound very good. And I was also thinking how very incredibly merciful the Supreme Lord is, because even though we're carrying these mental backpack through these lives eternally, at some point we meet the devotees and Srila Prabhupada comes. And then, in our next life, even though we can't quite get it together here yet because of our desires and our mind, that we get to continue in our next life at some point, so that even though I'm carrying these things with me, I'm somehow able to get a little jump start. I don't have to then again come to these, wow, I didn't know any of this. I don't know how that works, but somehow I get a little taste. Maybe I'm just born within devotees.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just so sweet how Krishna is just constantly trying to get us to come back.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's his mission, to make us notice and make us realize. Hare Krishna Purva.
Sorry, Prabhuji, just another question about the consciousness. Like
Mhm.
now, so we said that we've come into the association of devotees. So does it not also require impressions upon our consciousness to bring us to the point of getting us some association with the devotees?
Bhakti is independent. It can come from just by associating with a devotee. It can create newer impressions. Mind
in-
we can create newer impressions also.
okay.
It
So
does not depend upon the previous impressions alone always, because we have the freedom to create newer impressions too. Okay, everyone. Extremely grateful. See you next week. Yeah, next week is what? It's 11. Yeah, next week. And the following week, I think I will miss you guys because I'll be in transit on 18th around the morning time. I don't think I'll be settled well. I'll probably be in transit somewhere. So yeah, I don't think I'll make it on the 18th of this month. And again, the 25th of this month also, it could be hard. I would have to see because I'll be traveling. So 18th and 25th of this month, I don't think we'll have classes. I would have to let go of them both the weeks and then we'll be back. So I'll try to see how much we can complete next week. Probably we'll be able to see 2 sections next week if Krishna willing. And then I'll complete it on November 1st, which is a Saturday. This chapter, November 1st or the following week, we'll complete. So we'll have 2 weeks break, 18th and 25th. I won't be able to take. I'll try my best on 18th, but I don't think it's possible on 25th. So see you and thank you all very much, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Babaji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.